Under the pale green glow of twin moons, the world of Jorith pulsed with life. Bioluminescent trees stretched toward the heavens, their tendrils swaying in unison as if breathing. Rivers sparkled like flowing diamonds, and the air hummed with a symphony of alien creatures. But peace was a fleeting dream. A monstrous shadow loomed in the skies above Jorith. The Terran Dominion, a sprawling empire of relentless conquest, descended upon the planet like locusts. Their massive starships, bristling with weaponry, pierced the clouds, drowning the natural beauty in fire and smoke. For the Aelath, a graceful, avian species with iridescent plumage, the invasion marked the end of harmony and the beginning of survival. Among the Aelath stood Kael Vryn, a scientist, not a warrior. Her brilliant mind once sought to decode the mysteries of Jorith's flora, but now her focus had shifted to preserving what little remained of her world. The Terran Dominion was not merely mining resources. They were tearing apart the soul of her people. "We must fight," Kael whispered to the elders as smoke billowed on the horizon. "If we do nothing, Jorith will perish." Her plea was met with silence, the elders' once bright feathers dulled by despair. "You are asking us to challenge the Dominion," Elder Theron said, his voice heavy with doubt. "A force that has conquered countless worlds." Kael's amber eyes burned with resolve. "Then let Jorith be the first world to stand against them." The Terran war machine showed no mercy. Cities fell under the relentless march of mech-suited soldiers, their steel boots crushing the delicate beauty of Jorith. The air was thick with the acrid stench of burning forests, and the cries of the Aelath mingled with the roar of Terran dropships. Kael watched from a hidden ridge, her heart pounding as she clutched a crude energy rifle scavenged from a fallen soldier. Beside her, a small group of Aelath fighters, farmers, artisans, and scholars, waited for her command. They had no formal training, but desperation had forged them into something stronger than fear. "Aim for the supply convoy," Kael whispered, her feathers bristling. "We cut their resources. We cut their strength." The fighters nodded, their eyes reflecting a mix of terror and determination. As the convoy rumbled closer, Kael raised her rifle and fired the first shot. The explosion was deafening. A supply truck erupted into flames, sending Terran soldiers scattering. The Aelath fighters seized the moment, swooping down from the ridge with the agility of their kind. Claws and rifles struck in unison, turning the ambush into chaos. Kael's heart raced as she fired shot after shot, each one a defiance against the empire that sought to enslave her people. When the battle ended, the Aelath stood victorious, their breaths ragged but their spirits soaring. "This is just the beginning," Kael declared, her voice steady despite the tremor in her wings. "We will show the Dominion that Jorith is not theirs to take." Word of the resistance spread like wildfire. Across Jorith, pockets of defiance ignited, drawing Aelath from every corner of the planet. Artists turned their studios into armories, scientists crafted weapons from salvaged Dominion tech, and healers became battlefield medics. Kael emerged as the symbol of their rebellion. Her fiery speeches and unwavering resolve inspired a fractured people to unite. Yet, unity came with challenges. The Aelath had never been a warrior race, and their tactics were no match for the Dominion's disciplined forces. "We need allies," Kael said during a council meeting. Maps of Jorith's regions lay scattered across the table, marked with Terran encampments and resistance strongholds. The Dominion's power lies in their ability to divide and conquer. If we stand together, we can overcome them. One ally came from an unexpected source. Taron Vey, a defected Terran officer, approached the resistance with crucial intelligence. "I've seen what the Dominion does to worlds," Taron said, his voice tinged with guilt. "I can't be part of it anymore. Let me help you." Suspicion hung thick in the air, but Kael saw the truth in his eyes. "If you betray us, you will not live to regret it," she warned. "Understood," Taron replied, his gaze steady. With Taron's knowledge, the resistance launched daring raids on Dominion outposts, crippling supply lines and liberating prisoners. Each victory strengthened their cause, and the Aelath began to believe in a future free from oppression. The Dominion responded with brutal efficiency. Entire villages were razed, and captured rebels were executed as warnings. Yet, the resistance refused to break. Instead, their resolve hardened, like steel tempered in fire. Kael stood on the bridge of a stolen Terran frigate, now the flagship of their growing fleet. The stars stretched endlessly before her, a reminder of the vast empire they faced. Beside her, Taron analyzed a holographic display of Dominion troop movements. "They're amassing forces near the Zaether Plains," he said. "If they push through, they'll crush our strongholds in the south." Kael nodded, her mind racing. "Then we make our stand there. If the Dominion wants the plains, they'll have to fight for every inch." The Battle of Zaether Plains was a turning point. The Aelath resistance, outnumbered and outgunned, used the terrain to their advantage. With Kael's leadership and Terran's strategic expertise, they turned the plains into a death trap for the Dominion. The skies burned with dogfights between Terran ships and Aelath fighters, while the ground trembled under the clash of armies. When the dust settled, the Dominion forces lay in ruins. The victory came at a cost, but it proved that the Aelath could challenge even the mightiest empire. The Resistance's triumphs resonated across the galaxy. Other oppressed species began to rise, inspired by the Aelath's courage. The Dominion, once unchallenged, found itself stretched thin. Kael stood before a crowd of Aelath and their newfound allies. Her voice carried the weight of their struggle and the hope of their future. "Today, we are no longer victims. We are no longer prey. We are the flame that will burn away the darkness of tyranny. Together, we will forge a galaxy where all can live free." Cheers erupted, a symphony of voices united in defiance. The path ahead was uncertain, but the Aelath had learned to soar above fear and despair. The Terran Dominion had underestimated them. Now, they faced the wrath of a world that refused to be broken. With the Dominion's forces weakened, Kael knew the time had come to strike at the heart of the Empire. The Resistance's fleet, now bolstered by ships from allied worlds, prepared for an assault on the Dominion's command center orbiting a desolate moon. "This will be our most dangerous mission," Kael told her crew. Her voice was steady, but her feathers quivered with anticipation. "If we succeed, we'll shatter their control. If we fail, Jorth will fall." The final battle was a symphony of chaos. Ships darted through the void, exchanging volleys of plasma fire. Kael's flagship led the charge, its stolen Dominion cannons tearing through enemy lines. On the moon's surface, ground forces clashed in brutal combat, each side fighting for their vision of the galaxy. Kael and Taron infiltrated the Dominion's command center, their path fraught with danger. Together, they fought through corridors filled with enemy soldiers, their determination unyielding. At the core of the facility, they planted an explosive device powerful enough to cripple the Dominion's operations. As they escaped, the device detonated, sending shockwaves across the moon. The Dominion's fleet, disoriented and leaderless, fell into disarray. The Resistance seized the moment, driving the invaders back and reclaiming the stars. Years later, Kael stood on a balcony overlooking a rebuilt Jorth. The forest glowed once more, and the air was filled with the songs of her people. The galaxy had changed, but the scars of war remained. Taron approached, his Terran uniform replaced with the simple garb of a Jorth citizen. "They'll tell stories about this for generations," he said. Kael smiled faintly. "Let them remember not just the battles, but the unity that made victory possible." As the twin moons bathed Jorth in their light, Kael spread her wings and leapt into the air. The wind carried her higher, a reminder that even in the darkest times, the Aelath had learned to fly.